Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Backstick podcast. I'm Jamil Roberts, and I'm joined here as usual by Mr. Dom Okus. Dom, it's been a couple of weeks, mate. How you been?
Good, bro. Good, bro. The weather in Austin's been weird, man. It was super cold at the beginning of the year, but yesterday it was 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what, like 30 degrees Celsius. I was helping my friend move, and we didn't have a dolly, so I'm lifting beds and drawers and frames down two flights of stairs.
It's a good job
I'm all
you've been going
sweating.
gym.
Yeah, exactly. But she paid us all in Chick-fil-A, so I'll take that. I'll take that. But
Oh, can't go wrong.
yeah. But all good, mate. All good, mate. How are you? How are you?
All right, mate. It's it sounds like you've had a busy couple of days. I've had a busy couple of weeks, mate. I've just started some new work. Started up with my new team back here in England, and we've travelled 2 away games in the last 2 weeks, up in London, back down. I'm at home right now. I'm away with work for the next couple of days. I'm got the pleasure of going in to speak to the Birmingham boys, the under 18s, the under 21s, um, about the possibility of them moving over to the States maybe in the future. And yes, it's a busy time, but I'm glad that we can get back to what we do, and that's recording the pod. And I guess that's why
Exactly.
everyone's here. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest. He's been around the block, shall we say? He's a seasoned MLS goalkeeper. He's had time in the USL. He's a former Mercer University goalkeeper. So yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce Greg Ranjitsingh to the pod. Greg, how are you, mate?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate that.
Of course, of course, of course. And before we just jump into it, Jams, I do got to give a big shout out to my bro Paco, who connected the two of us. So obviously you were
Mm-hmm.
teammates at Louisville. I know
Yes, sir.
Paco. I've known Paco what 10, 15 years from his time playing at West Ham, my brother. So got a shout out the boy every time, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out Paco, man. That's a real one for me.
For sure, for
Do you
sure,
know
for
what?
sure.
I've heard Paco's name so many times now, and I've still never met him, still never spoke to him. But I feel like I know everything about him. Like I'm boys with all his boys. Like, he's sorting us out on a pod. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it feels like
But
he's my boy already. So.
yeah, nice. He's a top guy. He's a top guy, and I'm sure we'll get him on the pod sooner or
Yeah,
later.
yeah, nah, definitely, mate, definitely. But Greg, so obviously, we were chatting just there on before we started recording, and you were saying that you just made the move to New York, and it's been a bit of a nightmare, like with the house and the situation and whatnot. But just kind of give us a little quick overview. Obviously, you just signed for NYCFC. Are you excited for that move? But what challenges does that also face? People don't often think about everything else that comes with it. They just think that you're going to stick your gloves on, go out and train, and then you might get 3 points on the weekend. But just all the little things that have gone into it that make it such a challenge of moving year on year or every 2 years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, when I got the opportunity to come to New York, I was like, all right, New York, like one of my favorite cities ever. Always visited with my wife. It's both of our favorite cities, and so we were like super excited about the move. But obviously, like now at this stage in my career, two kids, obviously my wife, and in the past 3 years we were in Toronto and we kind of like settled in because that's home for us. We bought a place, finally done after like a nightmare of renovations, and now we gotta get up and move. And so yeah, it's a little bit of a logistical nightmare. Like, I mean, here in New York, it sounds amazing, but like when you actually gotta live there and like you're scrolling through Zillow or whatever it is, and you're seeing like, oh, like the rents are kind of crazy here. Like, maybe I could like could I squeeze my kids into that? Like, like you're looking at some of the places, I'm like, that price is kind of mad. Like, and so
Yeah.
that part's been it's been a little hard for us to kind of find an apartment. So I'm still in that process right now. But I mean, yeah, other than that, like logistic stuffs, obviously it'll take care of themselves. But I'm super excited to get here. Obviously, New York City FC, like a couple of years ago, won MLS Cup, part of City Group, and so a lot of the players that are coming in and out of the club, like super talented. And so just to be a part of this organization, obviously very excited. And yeah, it's New York, man. What's not to love about New York? So yeah, once we get all that like logistical stuff out the way, I think I'm really gonna enjoy it. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I think clean up house first, and then the rest of it will all fall
Yeah.
into place. I haven't spent too much time in New York. I don't know about yourself, Dom, but the only time I did, it was it was college pre-season, and we went over and we played a couple of teams. We went there for I think we went there for like 8 or 9 days, and we were staying just outside the city. Can't remember exactly, but there was two lads from Long Island on the team. Obviously knew the city well and everything, and and on the last day we played. So yeah, our last night we played Seton Hall on, I think it was a Friday morning. Whose schedule was the last game? Realistically, I mean, maybe the gaffer did it on purpose. I don't know. We scheduled it for 11 o'clock in the morning, and then they put on this like a boat tour of New York. We've seen like Empire State, Brooklyn Bridge, all this, that, and the other, and that all we were wrapped up by about 3 o'clock, and then they just said, "All right, lads, like you've got the day to yourselves. You can kind of go get up to no good, go do whatever you want, as long as you're back here." I don't know where it was, wherever we were meeting up. I think it was at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So obviously, what else am I gonna do at 3 o'clock? I'm in New York for the next 6 hours. Like, so I've just basically been drawn in by the two lads, John Pappas and Chris Tavey, and one of the lads, Kiwi fella, joined us, and the four of us just went on it. We just went bar crawl, Times Square, the lot, just hopping for 7 hours straight. And in our heads, we were like, "Oh, everyone must be doing this like this." Mate, we meet up with the rest of the boys. I've got 2 brown bags with beers in my hands like this, like stumbling in, and everyone's been just sightseeing for the whole day. And I've never felt like more of a degenerate in my life. I'm sneaking them into the subway like this, like trying to sift them behind the brown bag.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. No, I love New York, mate. I love New York. It feels like London. Obviously, born and raised in London. And I spent a lot of time in New York. One of my close friends is from New York, from the Bronx. So I spent a lot of time there. Spent a lot of time in Brooklyn. Like great, like lots of culture, lots of great food, fashion, nights out, music, like everything, right? Like it's kind of, one of the pinnacles, what I would say, of culture in the US that is in New York, right? You can get a little bit of everything. So yeah, you're in a good place, which I'm sure you're already aware of.
Yeah.
Have
No,
you
for sure.
have you looked to get any gigs up in New York? Would that be a goal for you, Dom?
Yeah. I actually know a few DJs out in New York. For the listeners who don't know, I DJ down here in Austin, Texas. So if you're ever looking for a vibe, it's English Dom on Instagram. But yeah, I know a few DJs out in New York, so I would love to. That'd be amazing. Yeah, I would love
that'd be
to.
sick. I see a lot of the rooftop parties in New York and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I can see you turning up there. To be fair. All right, nah, but we'll get back to the subject of the pod, and obviously we touched on New York there, and I'm sure we'll jump a little bit deeper into it later in the show. But I wanted to sort of take it back, and obviously take it back to the time where your career really kicked off, right? So you left Mercer. And you landed at Lou City, which, let's be honest, not a bad place for you to land coming into your first year as a pro, right? Like, I'm not sure what the foundations were of the club at that time, but certainly you look at the way the club has developed now, like that's a proper football club. That's a club, especially in the USL landscape. It does things right. It's an amazing place to play. They've got everything set, and in my opinion, I think they're one of the only USL clubs that runs themselves like an MLS franchise. But just talk to us a little bit about that sort of experience and what you learned. Obviously, it's your first couple of years pro, so going into that environment as a young lad and sort of figuring things out.
Yeah, honestly, it seems like ages ago, man. What was that, like 11 years ago is when I first got into Lou City. But yeah, just coming out of college, like finished up the season. So it's like December, November time. Go home and like I really have nothing sorted. Just like was gonna finish up school online. I was gonna hoping to trial a few places, and I still really didn't like know about the USL that well. Just knew about MLS, and obviously that was a difficult one to get into, just based off like my college and how things went. And so, man, I was home just training with my academy team for like weeks on end, just like hoping something would fall through. Or I'd hear something from an agent I was working with, and then I just kind of took things into my own hand, and I just sent out like a mass email blast out to like every single USL team like in the league, and like no one got back to me except for Lou City like a week later. They're like, hey, and I don't even think I emailed the right person. I might have emailed like the ticketing person or something. Like it got through, it just got to them. And like it was just, bro, it was a lot. Like it was destiny, honestly. Told me to come out for a trial, and obviously a new team like that year. And so I go out there, and like it's all new faces, and they're just trying to figure out the landscape there and how they're gonna kind of continue with this club. And a couple of weeks of trialing, it went well, and signed my first contract there. And yeah, it was honestly, I don't want to say like it was lucky that I landed there, but like I'm super grateful that I did, because like you see what they are today, like as you explained, like they're one of the top clubs, and I'm super grateful that I was kind of one of the ones that, and along with a lot of like the other OG guys, to kind of build Louisville City in that way, because it was brand new. And credit to James O'Connor, who maybe you guys know, he's the president there now, but he was a gaffer at the time, and he like took so much care in like building this roster around like personnel and characters, and building the culture first before the football. And so that kind of like drove us through the first initial years. And you could tell like already in like the first 2 years we made it to Eastern Conference Finals, and then the next two that I was there, we actually ended up winning it. And so I feel like the success of like those first initial years and just getting it right from the beginning was kind of like we kind of built this blueprint into like what they are now. And so you see the stadium and the players they're able to recruit now, and just they just have this reputation. And so when I look at the club now, I'm like, I feel like I feel good about it, because I felt like I was kind of the ones that helped build that. And so yeah, Lou City, I mean, just lifelong friends there, and such a successful club. So yeah, just I had nothing but great things to say about that place.
Oh, mate.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's so good. Do you know what? I can't believe that all of that happened because you emailed the fucking ticket office. That's
Yeah,
mate,
yeah,
like and that's a nut story, because the amount of footballers that do that, like whether it be on LinkedIn nowadays, obviously that's more prominent, or like, Greg, I'm sure you, like, I've had the same ones, just young lads messaging you on Instagram, or can't even imagine how many assistant coaches are getting in college or in the pros, getting emails, highlight tapes, everything, CV sent to them. And they actually looked at yours and went, oh yeah, might as well bring him in through the door. And then he ended up winning
yeah.
USL Cups. Like, it's
It's
mad.
Mad,
bro,
honestly.
it's mad some of the stories we hear, right? Of like, I think folks think when they look at professional football, they think it's like this super clean, organized, like nailed down thing, but it's not. It's like you might have some random person calls you and connects you with this person. You go on trial here, you think you're gonna get signed, you end up going somewhere else. Like all of these things are just crazy. But it just shows how like it's a little bit of talent, but also a lot of luck and like fortune, right? Because like, what if the person had just not seen your email? Like, would you even be at New York City today? You know,
Yeah,
like it's mad.
yeah,
It's actually mad. It's mad. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
literally.
you touched on a little bit there about James O'Connor, and I know a little bit about him because obviously Paco played under him, and he speaks really really well of him. I think that's kind of a good transition into like your next move, right? So I think James leaves, kind of goes to the MLS or Orlando City, and then takes you with him. Is that right?
yeah. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that story and how that kind of came together.
yeah. So obviously, yeah, James. Yeah, he's a top figure in my career, honestly, because he really helped me out into like my transition from USL into MLS. Obviously, spent 4 years with him in Louisville City, and yeah, won one USL Cup with him. And then in the second year, this was so won with him in 2017. In 2018 is halfway through the year is when he made his move to Orlando City. And so we finished off that year with John Hackworth when he had moved on. And actually, mad, like there was like a 2 months period where we were just coached by ourselves. Like we just had three like senior players coach us. So that was a mad year, but he moved
hang on
on.
a minute.
Wait,
then-
hold on.
Yeah,
Hang on a
yeah,
minute.
yeah. The
Time out,
triumvirate.
time out.
That's legendary. That's triumvirate, legendary.
Time out. What?
Yeah. Okay, I'll
What has
touch on
happened
that too. Yeah, so James moves on to Orlando City 2018, and we're in a good way. Like Louisville City's, we're moving, we're getting wins. Like we're moving good, and we're trying to figure out, like, I guess ownership is trying to figure out, all right, how we're gonna move forward. Like James has been the guy for us since the beginning of when the club was created, and so I guess they didn't want to rush into a coach, and because we were so, like, as a team, we were so close. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't think there's ever a locker room in football like this locker room. Like, it was different. Like, we were family on and off the pitch. And so for 2 months, we had three senior players. It was Luke Spencer, Paulo Del Piccolo, and George Davis. And they just coached us. Like, they just took, a little bit more responsibility, and they were doing the video, and like, yeah, we were just coaching ourselves basically. But they took a lot of the workload, and man, we were still getting wins with them. Like, it was a crazy
So
time because, like,
were they
you're
named
moving on
as
without
like
a
the
gaffer.
coaches?
Yeah, we called them like the triumvirate. Like, it was just like 2 months of them just like taking over the team. Like, and Luke was injured at the time, and I think like he would obviously be the guy on the sidelines, which is
Right.
mad because he subbed himself into a game like I think one of the last games he subbed himself in. Gaffer subbed himself in. And, like, yeah, so yeah, it was that was special, honestly. Like, I don't think any other team could do that, but that Lou City 2018, like, it was a time, honestly. Like, it's hard to really explain without like actually being in that room and like being there. It was crazy, man. Imagine
Mate.
three of your teammates just like being the gaffer for like 2 months, and like, I mean, no assistant, no, like, nothing. Like, it's just the players, and we're just like running it ourselves.
Wait,
Like,
so I played against Paulo Del Piccolo quite a few times, and obviously I think he's just recently retired and taken the academy director job, hasn't he? Lucy.
yeah.
But so how old were these lads when they were doing it? Like, they're obviously, because they must have been like late 20s, early 30s, just out of nowhere told that you're going to you're going to coach a team.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the 20s. I think George might have been like 31 or like 32, which is like my age right now, and I could never picture myself just like a gaffer leaving, and then like I'm just like, all right, guys, like, this is what we're doing, And so, yeah, they were young to be doing that, but it just worked. I don't know, man. That locker room was it was special, man. I'm telling you.
Question I have is that
There's a reason.
obviously, like, let's say we're all teammates, right? And then I become the gaffer. I've got to leave folks out. So like me and you, Jam, might be best of mates off the pitch or whatever. We go on that together. And on match day, I've got to leave you out. So like, how was that dynamic in that? Did it work better because it was three of them, right? So it wasn't just one person that people could get annoyed with. They knew it was kind of a calibrated decision. And so folks were okay with being maybe left out or being substituted and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I never really spoke to any of the guys about. I was the goalkeeper, So
Yeah.
like, obviously, I'd been playing throughout the season. I was the one there, and so like, I guess I didn't experience that. But I don't know. That would be an interesting question to ask some of the guys. But it seemed like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We like, even with our strikers when they were there, it was Luke, it was Ilya Illich, and it was Cameron Lancaster. And obviously Luke was injured at the time. But like, the relationship between all three of them, like, didn't matter who played, like, they just got on so well. Like, the chemistry was just there, and like I said, like, it was a brotherhood, honestly. Like, we were family. And so, I don't know, I guess guys took it. Obviously you always want to play, but I guess guys understood like what the goal was, and so if it was your name on the team sheet, then like you were just gonna go out there and play and support the guy that was gonna eventually come into the game or come into the roster, whatever it was. So it worked. I mean, it worked for 2 months, and then obviously they brought in John Hackworth to kind of seal things up. But I thought it was a time, man. What a time, man.
it sounds
Crazy.
fun. And it's a testament to like the professionalism, but also like you touched on the brotherhood of the locker room. Just kind of last thing before we kind of leave this and move back to James O'Connor, but when they came in, I mean, I say when they came in, when the lads stepped up, shall we say, to take that like more senior coaching role, did they change much? Did they have to change much, or from the manager before, was it more like just steady the ship and kind of keep the what you were doing? Was there any big changes they tried to make? Because it sounds to me like
No.
you guys were already winning. Like as long as you just keep doing what you were doing before, you're gonna keep winning.
Yeah, they and obviously James had helped them as well and kind of gave them a little bit of the blueprint of how he would do things, and so they just carried on with that. And it was a lot because James is obviously very like he worked extremely hard. Like he was in the office like all day, all night, and so they kind of used his way of coaching and analyzing, the match. And so it was a lot for them. I remember them saying like they would be just completely gassed at the end of the day because they'd be looking at all the game footage and looking at training, and so they just took like James O'Connor's way and rolled with it. So yeah, it was just more of just like steadying up the ship, letting things like continue to feel as normal as they could be throughout the next period until they found like the new coach. But it worked, man. We still got results and we ended up winning that year still. So yeah, I guess you can't really say it didn't work.
Unbelievable. Class.
I still think that's mind blowing. Like
It's mad,
genuinely,
isn't it?
genuinely.
Mad.
Like if my
Mad.
gaffer got sacked tomorrow and like two of the senior like I don't know. I think I would struggle as a player in that because I know you touched on like leaving people out. Mate, I would be thinking, can I banter him anymore? Like,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
because like that's sort of who I am in the changing room. Like, I'm like not a serious cat around the changing room whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, if I can't like tell him like his gear's shit or like it's just something like that, it wouldn't sit right with me. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. But nah, credit to the lot of you, man, because that's something that I guess that will stay with you forever, right? Like you can win titles, but that in general, like that's something that you'll meet up for a beer when you're in your 40s and your 50s or whatever, and you'll laugh about that and say, how the fuck did we win and we didn't even have a fucking coach?
Yeah. I'm telling you, that locker room was like special. Like I'll never experience something like that again. I don't think many other people will. Like there's just no word to describe that locker room. You just had to be in it, honestly.
Yeah, that's special, man. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll bring it back to sort of the timeline and whatnot. And you mentioned James O'Connor and the transition to the MLS and with Orlando. But one thing that we wanted to get into, because it's a subject that I'm not sure many people kind of have too much of an insight into, and really, I mean, I'll be upfront and honest. I didn't even know it existed until I was looking into you and sort of this episode and whatnot. So the MLS pool, obviously, you spent time there, and from reading up on it, mate, it seems bonkers. Like, am I right in thinking that you literally, someone picked up the phone and you had to be somewhere to go play on the weekend, and then you might be somewhere else the next weekend or whatever? Just kind of how did you fall into that?
Yeah,
And
honestly,
how does it make
like
any sense to anyone? Just try and
I'll
for
wait
me.
till I tell you. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But here's what happened. So I signed in Philly in 2021 with the idea that they had Andre Blake there. It was Andre Blake, Matt Freese, Joe Bendick. That's who their roster was. And that was a Gold Cup year. So Andre was going to be leaving for Gold Cup, but it was also an Olympic year. And so Matt Freese was with the US U23s. And so if they had qualified, then he would have been gone for the summer as well. So they needed an extra keeper. And so they brought me into preseason, did well, and they signed me. And this is like they signed me a week before like the deciding match of the US U23s in their like qualification, and they ended up losing, and so they don't go to the Olympics. And so now I'm like sat here in this like group of four keepers, with an idea of like, okay, maybe I'll get a chance in the summertime to maybe get some games or, be closer to the roster, whatever it is. And I don't, because obviously Matt Freese is going to stick around and they have already Joe Bendick. And so I was like, all right, well, it's good that, I'm still in the MLS. I still have this contract, but I kind of have to figure out like throughout the year my next move. And so the GM there at the time had brought this idea to me, like this MLS pool goalkeeper, and that like it kind of worked with like what I like my situation, because obviously I was the fourth at the time, and with the pool goalkeeper, if a team had injuries and they were only left with like one goalkeeper on the roster, I would be the guy that would go and like fill in. And so no one really even knew that I switched my contract. Like I just signed it like in the background, and I was still based in Philly until one day like Orlando City it's one of the guys there gets injured, and then they see like on Twitter like Orlando City has called in pool goalkeeper Greg Ranjitsingh, and it's like, what the hell? Like I thought you were on our team, and then all of a sudden I'm like off to Orlando with them for a week because they need someone to, be with them. So yeah, it was mad. So I did Orlando for a week. It was crazy because I was there for 2 games. The day of the second game, I look at my phone and like I'm getting a call from the GM from LAFC, and I'm like, what's this? Well, like what's going on here? And so he's like, hey, listen, like one of our goalkeepers has broke his nose, and so like we need you here in LA. And so this whole time, like I signed this pool goalkeeper contract, and I never had to use it until literally these 2 weeks in the middle of the season that like just so happened back-to-back teams needed me. So flew to Orlando, flew to LAFC, which honestly was a blessing in disguise because at the time Bob Bradley was the coach, and had a good week of training. Staff really liked me, and then they got the gig in Toronto the end of that year, and so that was kind of like my audition that I didn't even know was going to be my audition for them, and so that kind of landed me in Toronto for the next year. So the pool goalkeeper situation was honestly a blessing in disguise because it got me in front of like other coaches. But I will say there was one instance. This is mad. At the end of the year, this is mad. So Portland, they were down to okay. They had their 2 goalkeepers, and I think they had one young guy, maybe he was injured at the time. But they also had a pool goalkeeper that was situated with them. Like Portland had a pool goalkeeper. I didn't know he was in the pool, but he was signed to a pool contract. And they had an injury, and so they called me like, hey, listen, like one of our goalkeepers, we don't think he can make the game day roster. We need you to fly in. But they had the pool, like they had one on their roster, like a pool goalkeeper, and they go and say, technically he's only allowed to be a pool goalkeeper for the Canadian teams. And I was like the American team's pool goalkeeper. And so this guy was already there, but I had to fly across the country because like he wasn't eligible to just like go into the roster. So I fly from Philly to
Fucking
Vegas.
nuts, man.
Spend like because there was no flights direct to Portland in the time I needed to. So I flew from Philly to Vegas, stayed in the hotel, like the airport for a couple hours, Vegas to Portland. I get there. Goalkeeper says he's good. The guy got injured. He says, "Nah, I'm good."
No.
He says, "Nah, I'm good." Strapped up his ankle in the game. So I just did this whole mad travel just to sit in the box and watch the game, and then fly back that night. So it does come with like, yeah, the pool goalkeeper situation is mad. Like I did some crazy stuff for it, but at the end of the day, like I got that time in LFC that gave me my contract in Toronto. So I'll say it's a blessing in disguise. It was all worth it.
So, like, just taking a step back. So the MLS pool, because there's like, I'm rattled. Like, I understand why Jan was stuttering earlier, because it's like, what is this thing? Right. So your current team, so Philly, pays your contract, but you're just
Yeah.
part of this pool that basically allows you to go on loan for a week or two to another team that needs you. But
So
is that fair or no?
it's like, so I was obviously Philly. I had my contract with Philly, and then I changed it to a pool. But all the contracts come through like the league, and so the league
Right.
was paying me. But I was just because like I guess I was a Philly player. I was based in Philly now,
Okay.
and so every time I would have to go do a pool gig, like whether it was Orlando, LFC, Portland. Like once I was in like once they had enough keepers for them to like push on, I had to go back to Philly. I had to fly back because Portland asked if I could stick around and train, but I wasn't allowed to. I had to like fly back to Philly because that was like my home team. And so yeah, that's kind of how it worked.
Interesting. Very,
Yeah,
very. And then,
Well,
like,
MLS man.
and then, sorry, the pool thing as well. So, are you only going to basically be on the bench? So, like, let's say they've got one keeper. Obviously, you need to have two keepers on game day. So you're just going to be on the bench just in case the keeper that plays gets injured, and then obviously they have a backup. Is that the case?
Yeah. That's pretty much how it is. Unless like say like both the senior keepers get injured and then like they're only left with like one young one, and then maybe if they don't feel comfortable with the like just putting the young guy in that situation, maybe the pool keeper can come in and play the game. But yeah, usually it's but in my situation I went there and sat the bench for the goalkeepers
Right,
there.
right. Interesting.
Yeah.
okay,
And it's
so are these
go, no, go,
are you
James.
signing on loan, or because I know that the MLS, like you said, like you're contracted to the league in this instance. So are you signing like a separate loan deal every time you go away, or is it literally just like pack your things and like the MLS just kind of changes your registration for the weekend?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think the MLS does something. They told me to be there. I just packed up my bag and went there. I didn't have to like sign anything extra. I think the MLS is though. It's honestly the days of the pool. Like I've heard some crazier stories, honestly, but that's pretty much how it went. But the days of the pool goalkeeper are gone just because they have like obviously MLS Next. You can do like the short-term agreements now, and there's just more like the player pool is a lot bigger for organizations. So. But yeah, that's basically how it went. It was like I wouldn't say it was like it was a loan. It was just more of like a like you said like a re-registration type thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mad.
And it's only
But you know
for
what though?
goal.
It was good. It was good for me because it just worked out that one of my best friends like in football, his name's Adam Grin, he was in Orlando. We were together in Orlando actually, and he'd come back from like a really bad ACL injury, and it was the game that he like it was his first game back from that injury in Orlando, and so it was good for me to like go there and like be there for his first game back from his in like I was like his backup for that game just to see him in that moment like it was good. So like a lot of good moments came from the pool goalkeeper situation. So
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, that's lovely. And then obviously you extended on to the fact that your time in LAFC brought you to obviously working under Bob Bradley, who took you out to Toronto. And you had 2 years there. One thing I guess it is continuing on the theme of, contractual difficulty, shall we say. But obviously it's listed that they declined your option after your first year and you ended up re-signing. So it's funny, I actually went through a similar thing my previous club this past off season, but like what was the details with that? Did they just want to restructure things? Were they not happy financially, or were you not happy? Did something need to change on your end? What made that more complicated than it needed to be in terms of just picking up your option and going for year two?
yeah, I mean it was like a financial thing. Obviously they saw my in my option year my contract went up like a certain amount, and they were like, yeah, you're not getting that. Like, if we're gonna bring you back, you're gonna be on. Like, you're not on that. So, I was like, all right, fair. And then plus, like, a new gaffer came in. I guess he wanted to like kind of speak with the club and staff and see, if it was a right fit for me to return. And so, yeah, a couple weeks or months, whatever it was later, they said they would bring me back on a different number. And so it ended up working out. But a lot of the times, that's how it goes in MLS. Like if they don't like the
Yeah,
number
yeah.
you're on, like they'll find a way to make sure you're not on that number, and they'll
No,
get
for
you on when they
sure,
want.
mate. And in that interim time, obviously you re-signed, but were you looking elsewhere in that little interim time where you kind of could speak to other clubs, or was it like you were just like you wanted Toronto? That was it. You didn't want to move on, and you were waiting for their answer before you looked elsewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a footballer, you always have to like keep your options open. You can't just be like obviously Toronto was home for me, and I got along good with the guys there, and my family's was super happy to be there. But the career is so
Greg, think we lost you there for a sec, you know.
What's happened here?
Greg, can you hear us?
No, I don't think he can. Maybe his AirPods have died. Give him a bell.
Let's see. God, I'm not doing. Yo, can you hear us? No.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, we can't hear
he's.
you. Did
Let's have
did
a
your
look.
AirPods get like disconnected or something? Because I can hear Jams and he can hear
Mm,
me, but we can't hear you.
this is a new one.
Yeah.
See if he can just leave it and then rejoin maybe.
All right, cool. Oh wait, I think we got
There
you
we
now.
go.
There
There
we
we
go.
go.
Lovely. Cool. So if you go to speaker, you know, at the bottom, like underneath where it says like Mark, Mike, if you go to speaker and then change that to AirPods, does that work? Can you hear us now for your AirPods?
Mhm.
Yes. I don't know if the mic is coming through your AirPods though, but you're probably not gonna be able to change that. I don't
I
think you can
don't think
change
you
it while it's
can.
recording.
We're still recording, so that just means so basically you're on two. You have two recording files now. So like the one
Right.
before stopped, and then now you're on a new one. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay,
The
cool.
is the
Yeah, I think that's fine.
the only other thing that we need to just make sure before we jump back in is
Mm.
is our sound coming through your laptop or into your AirPods? Oh, okay, that's fine because there'll be no just that would just make it echo.
Yeah, I think he's saying though that when he speaks, it's not picking up the AirPods, it's coming through the Mac, which I think is fine.
I
Is that
mean,
right?
oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Have you have you still got the email? Because it might just be worth it quick if you just back out to the dashboard, jump back on the email, and then just rejoin the studio from there. Yeah, cool.
Perfect. All right, see you in a sec. That's an interesting one, man. Never had that
Mate,
before.
never, never.
That's interesting because he's
Is
like there talking, and then he's
yeah,
just like, "There's nothing." I was like, "What?" I thought it
very
was mine at
weird.
first. I was thinking, "Fuck, did my thing disconnect?" Da, da, da. But I
Yeah,
could
I
see your
know.
face, and you were
I
like,
clocked you like.
I'm good
"Right,
now.
All right.
Can you guys hear me through
yeah,
the? Yeah, good.
Yeah, all
everything
good,
sounds
all
good,
good, all good,
Okay,
mate, all
yeah,
good.
I got
All right.
it.
Trying to think of where we was at real quick. We was on just try to pick it up naturally
So
on
we were
the
talking after
oh
the option.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
option.
and I said I'll just kind of lead it back in and you can go wherever you were with that. But obviously we were just talking about were you looking elsewhere during that sort of interim period, or was it, Toronto or or nothing else, and then you would start looking elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I was saying, like as a footballer, if your career's so short, so you just have to look after yourself, and so always looking for like the next opportunity, no matter like if we loved Toronto, and even though my family was from there, and I love the guys on the team, like you can't always like fall in love with your situation if it doesn't work for you as like a footballer. And so I was obviously looking elsewhere, and I ended up coming back to Toronto that year, but it was similar to this year where I go into the office, they decline my option, and they say like, we'll let you know, like we're going through like a big change in the organization with a few moving pieces, so we'll let you know like later on the offseason, like if we'll bring you back. And so you just have to kind of sit tight. And so up until I signed the dotted line here in New York City. Like I was still in conversations with Toronto, and I ended up choosing New York because Toronto just wasn't ready to move the needle on anything. But yeah, that was a decision that like I was making throughout the entire off season, like through November, December, when like you're getting into almost into January, almost into preseason. You're like, okay, where am I gonna be in 2025? Especially when you have a
Bro,
wife and two kids. Like it's mad.
bro, these are things, and Dom, like we talk with so many lads that have a smoother transition into football, or sorry, transition between clubs in the off season, this and that. But this is things people don't understand, right? Like professional football, there are countless examples of lads that live in a different location every 10, 11, 12 months, just going from contract to contract throughout their career because they know it's short, they want to make the most of it, and if the next contract is on the other side of the country, they're going to go and do it. But in any other industry, that's fucking mental. Like, if you're an accountant, you're not moving from New York to Vegas to LA to Chicago back down to Miami every 9 months just because you might get another $2,000 a year more. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, football is such a silly industry like that, to where like that could have gone on for a third year for you, Greg. Like, to me, that's just like, it doesn't make sense. It never will make sense. But for some reason in football, it makes sense. Like,
No, the maddest thing, if you compare like the corporate normal 9 to 5 job in football, is the one where it's a new manager comes in and is essentially like, you need to cut your wages in half or you got to go somewhere else. Like, imagine your boss, if you was an accountant or whatever, if you use that example, coming in and saying, look, like, I'm sure you were great for the company and all of that, but I want to run my team like this. So you need to cut your wages in half or you need to find somewhere else to work. There would be anarchy, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that happened, like there would be like what tribunal law, like court, going to court, labor laws, like all of this stuff, right? But in football, that's just accepted. That is how it goes. A new gaffer comes in and might not like you and send you to train with the kids to get you out, right? Like that's normal practice. So yeah, football and sports is it's a different kettle of fish, man. Different kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you have such a short career, and there's like, I don't want to say like you're easily replaceable, but you are. There's always someone that's just like hungry for they want to take your job, you know what I mean? So if you're not willing to, you know, slash your wages in half, the guy will find someone who will, or, vice versa, whatever it is. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
mad.
And Jam, we talk about this all the time, right? And like, especially in the USL and stuff, and it's like, feel like, and it's difficult, right? Because like, again, players want to put food on the table, but it's difficult when you see some of the contracts that some of the players are taking, because then it's just pushing down what everyone gets paid, right? Like if you're willing to
literally.
take this stupid contract, then now that's the new bar, and then the next season they cut it again and again, and it's like, well, boys, we can't even make a living now if we
Bro,
do this.
like, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I stepped away from the USL, was because I know what I was worth as a player, and I saw the bar getting lowered every year, and I just this off season for me, that was enough was enough. Like, there comes a time where there's a number that I won't play below. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously that in the MLS, the way that the contracts are structured and whatnot, it's a little bit more protection for players, that clubs can't just take the piss. But like you said, an owner, for example, can just slash the wage budget in half, and the gaffer just has to deal with it. And then he's got to tell his top players or his key players that, yeah, I want you, but you're gonna have to take 20 grand a year less, and you're meant to be okay with it. Like, no, I'm not alright with that.
It's insane,
mad.
man.
It's mad what they can do to some players. Like some of the stories I've heard. I mean, even myself. Like when I first started in Louisville, like obviously it was a good organization, but I was after like taxes, every 2 weeks I was seeing like $500 hit my account, and I was playing. So I was like, how am I gonna make this work? I gotta get another job, which is like coaching or something like. But I mean, like. The general managers and the coaches, they know what they're doing. They know who they can get on what contracts, and like you're just at the mercy of their decision. And so, I mean, that's football, like what can you do? It's like you got 10 years, 15 years of it max. Like if if you're lucky, and so sometimes you just gotta grind it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure for most, I think the hope is that the light's always at the end of the tunnel, but unfortunately, for some players, it's not. um, but that's life, and everyone's got to make their decisions along the way. Now, we've kind of gone over a lot in your career, and we talked about specific career paths and whatnot, and your journey from the USL to the MLS, and which I still think is fucking crazy. The MLS pool, I'll never get my head around that. But I think I'm gonna pass it over to Dom, where we're gonna kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, put some smiles on some faces. Maybe piss a few people off along the way. We don't know, but that's for Dom to go into. So, Dom's going to take you through extra time on the Backstick podcast. Dom, take it away, mate.
Now, for those that have been following over the last, kind of 10 to 15 episodes that we've put out, we have a staple here at the Backstick podcast, and it's called Extra Time. I'm your host, Dom Okus, aka Steve Harvey with a skin fade. And so I'm going to take you through 4 questions that we have every Backstick episode. So the first question is, who's the best player you've played with?
Best player I've played with, like career-wise, or just like at the time? Because I played with, like, obviously in the MLS, you get those like marketable players that come in, and so when I was in Orlando, I had Nani, and like his career was just mad. Obviously, he was there like towards the end of it, still a quality player, but like you're like, this guy's walking in your dressing room, you're like, yo,
Wow.
like this is
Yeah,
mad, So I would say him. I would say Luis Nani.
Okay. What was he like kind of off the pitch? Like, you could probably speak decent English, right? Because obviously he'd spent a bunch of time in the Premier League. He's Portuguese, so he's got that kind of, flavor to him. But like, was he
Yeah,
cool? Because obviously coming to America, obviously it's not seen in the same light as like the European League. So what was he like as a person?
yeah. I mean, with me, he was cool. I know some of the players maybe he rubbed the wrong way just because, you know, for whatever reason, but he was cool with me. His apartment was actually in the building right next to mine, so his wife and my wife would hang out a little bit. And I actually went to
Right.
dinner with him one time, which is like, you're at dinner with Nani, like just chopping
Yeah,
it up.
bro.
Which it was my first year in MLS, and I was like, wow, this is mad. Like
That's
this is a
crazy.
legend. So I would say, yeah, he was cool people, honestly. But yeah,
Sick.
you always get a
Sick.
few of those, like in MLS. There's always some marketable players. Like in Toronto, I was with Bernardeschi and Lorenzo Insigne, which is also it's
Mad.
really cool to like be teammates with them. So yeah,
They came at the same time, didn't they?
yeah, they came at the same time. Yeah.
So what was that like? Obviously, you're in the squad. You've just got two Italian internationals just walk up on the doorstep. Probably not even interested in speaking to anyone else. Just go, me and you will just do 1-2s and we'll just score.
Yeah, no, it was cool, man. Obviously, I don't know if you followed Toronto and like all the drama going on there, but it was just it was an interesting situation. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. It was cool. Good people. Good people.
Uh,
Good people.
cool. We'll move on to the next question. Who's the best player you've played against?
Again, obviously, maybe towards the end of his career, but Didier Drogba, like
Yeah.
Didier, like it was crazy. And this was in the USL as well. This was like
Right.
his last year, his last game actually. I don't think he played after that. He was with Phoenix Rising. We played them in the USL Cup 2018, and like, I mean, you're just looking at this guy, and he's just a giant, like unbelievable, like. Yeah, I was just mad to play against him. And I actually heard that like this might not be true. You might have to fact check it, but someone was like he's net like if he's been in a cup final, he's never lost or whatever, and like he lost that USL Cup final. So if that's true, then he's only lost he's only lost a cup final to that Louisville City squad. So I don't know if that's true
Okay.
though. You guys might have to fact check that. But still, yeah, Didier, yeah, big up Didier. Like that was crazy to play
Yeah.
against him.
Big time.
Yeah.
We've heard through Christian Cheney and whatnot previously on the pod that he's a top bloke in the changing room as well. So I think he must have had a good reputation around the USL, not just for being Didier Drogba, but I think just for being a good person as
Good
well
guy.
at that time. Yeah, good guy. Good at the early days of the USL as well.
Yeah. Didier Drogba, one of my favorite players growing up, man. Like, just clutch, right? Like, just the
Hmm.
definition of it, like big game, big player, baller, right? The first question is, if you could go on a night out and you could pick three past or present teammates to go on that night out, who would they be and why?
Past or present teammates?
Yes. I know some people are going to be upset about this one, so think carefully.
Uh,
Think carefully. Think carefully.
Man, that's top three of them, huh?
Yeah,
Three's not enough,
yeah.
man. Three's not
I
enough. I
know,
mean,
I
I had I had
know.
a, had
Mate, you
a lot of fun
can't
in
roll with the
Toronto,
whole
obviously.
starting 11. Your gaffer will find out.
I know. Obviously, I had a lot of fun in Toronto, just like through the years, because at home and like those are like some of my Achilles, some of my Achilles I grew up with, like,
Yeah.
and so like it's hard for me to. And then obviously you have Lou City, which is like literally like what we went through. Like, I mean, you just don't go through things like that with those regular people. So like obviously they're super special to me. So it'd have to be like a combination of like some Lou City, some Toronto. Um, Man, I'm gonna put Paco in there because me and Paco obviously got along really good. Like that's actually my dog. We
Mhm.
just we actually got together in the off season. We went to a wedding and
Sick.
had a good time. So I'll put Paco in there. I'll put like my brother Mark Anthony K, just because that's like my bro. He came up from Lou City and he was with me in Toronto, so that's my dog, best man at his wedding, and he was also in my wedding as well. And then
Sick.
another one of my good friends, I'll put Richie Larry in there because that's my dog as well. We frigged up a few roads before, so yeah, I'll put those three. We did a few roads with that man, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Sick, 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 sick. And then last but not least, what would you say is your biggest achievement on the pitch so far?
The biggest achievement on the pitch would be
Hmm.
it would just be in Toronto. I had a game at home, and I got to have my son with me during the national anthem at BMO Stadium, which is a
Sick.
stadium like obviously when you're young, you see that you're like, yo, this is the big leagues for us. It's MLS.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's not no Prem or no Bundesliga or anything like that. But like for me growing up, I was like, this is what I could see like in front of me. And so to be on that pitch with my son, like I have that picture with me, and that'll be like I'll take that with me to the grave. Like that's like one of my favorite pictures of all time. So just to have that moment was super special for me. It's super special for my family too, just to see like my boy with me on the pitch. So that for me, like nothing comes close to that feeling. Like it was amazing.
Yeah. Sick. It's interesting. We've had a few folks answer the question like how you just described it, right? Like folks that have won cups, right? You've won a bunch of stuff at Louisville, for example, but they always mention their family as being like a core memory for them, whether them being in the stadium, you saying with your son. So it's sick to see that for fans to get an insight into like what truly matters to people. So
Yeah.
sick. That's been extra time, and I kick it back to my boy James.
Ledge. I like it. It was a good mixture in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a quick one. You haven't played against Messi, no? Because any MLS player that we have on the show that doesn't say Messi, I think screw
Yeah,
loose.
I
So
mean,
you haven't played. Just confirm, and you haven't
I
played
wasn't on the
against him.
pitch. I wasn't on the pitch at the
Ah,
time,
okay.
so I can't use that. Obviously, like I've been on the bench, and I've seen some
Mm.
crazy players in front of me. Like because I've been through the league with like Zlatan, Messi, like a
Mhm.
lot of these guys, and I wasn't on the pitch, so I couldn't use that one. So
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. My the only one for me, like in that sense of again coming to the end of his career, was Higuain, and
yeah,
and I'll
Baller.
never forget. Yeah, like he was. I think he'd just come back from an injury, so it was his first game back was against us. He only played the first half, and he had the ball near me, and in my head, I don't know why, I just thought like I'm gonna body him, like that's what I'm gonna remember from this game, and I bounced off him, and he and he just carried on running. I think he like just swatted me away, something like that. But yeah, no, that was an unbelievable one. So I understand when you come across them top players, it's like you have to sort of click yourself back in and know that you're just playing against them. But overall, I think that's a good time for us to wrap up there. I think we've covered everything we wanted to, and mate, I've really enjoyed that. I don't know about yourself, Dom.
Of course, man. Man, it was sick. It was sick.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny because I feel like people that are from Toronto are very similar to Londoners. Like London, New York, Toronto is kind of like a triangle in that the cities are very similar. We kind of dress the same, talk the same. So I knew it was going to be a vibe as soon as we jumped on this one, man.
Yeah, it's been this one's been a long one in the making as well. I know I've sort of stayed in the background, let you two talk, so I'm glad that Dom's actually let me get a word in.
You're scared, bro.
No, I'm joking. But no, Greg, actually, on a more serious note, from myself and from Dom, thanks ever so much for coming on the show, mate. We've really enjoyed that one, and we have as well.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure, honestly, being on here. Like, and thank you to Paco for like connecting us, because it's good to meet good people, you know. So like, I really enjoyed the vibe
For
here,
sure.
and so thank you guys for having me on and chatting with me a bit, man. It was good
Sure.
vibes,
Thank you,
man.
bro.
Good vibes.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, mate. That's all we're trying to do, man. Is we're not out to ruin anyone's career. This is football people talking football, man. So
That's it.
we hope you enjoyed it, and I guess that leads me on to sort of ask a question, because we're 56 minutes into the show. If you're new to the show and you like what you're hearing, just go click subscribe. Go click subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple, you can follow the show. Spotify, subscribe. Leave a review. Leave
Why
a
not?
comment. Just while you're here, do us a
Yeah.
favor. Do Greg a favor. If it's not for me, if it's not for Dom, do Greg a favor.
Exactly.
But and once you've done that, all of our previous episodes are there for you to listen to as well. So catch up, go back to the beginning, Keziah Sterling, episode 1, all the way up to this latest episode with Greg. You can find on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you watch or listen to your pods, we're there. But anyway, without further ado, I think it's time that we wrap up the pod. So from myself and from Dom, once again, Greg, thank you ever so much for being here. And from the three of us, thank you ever so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.